The engine hummed low on that empty Georgia highway as night had already swallowed the sky. Inside the car silence hung heavy, while Muhammad Ali stared straight ahead, his eyes locked on something no one else wanted to see. A faded sign in the diner window read "Whites Only." The words hit like a punch to the gut. His friends froze, and one of them whispered with a cracking voice, "Champ, don't. Not here. Not tonight." But Ali didn't blink. He had just shaken the world months earlier in Zaire by knocking out George Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle and proving once again why they called him the greatest. Yet here he was on a lonely stretch of road in rural Georgia in 1974, staring at a sign that said some men were less than others. The car rolled to a stop in the dirt parking lot as gravel crunched under the tires like bones. Ali reached for the door handle while one friend pleaded with fear in his voice, saying, "Man, they got guns down here. This ain't the ring. This is real life." Ali paused with his hand on the door, and his voice came out calm, almost gentle, but carrying the weight of thunder as he said, "Real life is exactly why I'm going in." He stepped out into the humid summer air that wrapped around him like a threat. Inside the diner, a few locals glanced up through the dusty glass, and their faces changed the second they saw who was walking toward them. The bell above the door rang as Ali pushed it open, and everything stopped. Spoons froze halfway to mouths. Conversations died mid-sentence. A waitress nearly dropped her coffee pot. Behind the counter stood the owner, a hard-faced white man in his late 50s named Earl Miller, with his arms crossed and jaw tight. He had run this place for 25 years, and for 25 years that sign had hung in his window like gospel. Ali stood tall in the middle of the floor with no fists raised and no yelling, just pure presence. Earl's voice sliced through the silence, cold and sharp, as he said, "We don't serve your kind here." The words landed like a slap. Ali didn't move. He looked the man dead in the eyes and asked one simple question that would change everything. "And what kind is that?" The tension in the room was thick enough to choke on. Would this end in violence? Would Ali walk away? Or was something far more dangerous about to happen, something that couldn't be fixed with fists? If stories about real courage still move you in this world, take 1 second to hit that like button right now and subscribe, because these are the moments that remind us what it means to be truly great. Let's go back to the summer of 1974. The Civil Rights Act had been law for a decade, but in small towns like this one, the ink on that paper meant nothing because old habits and older hate still gripped the South. People still whispered about their place and outside agitators. Earl Miller was one of them, born and raised in these parts, where his father taught him the diner would die if they ever sat at the counter, so the sign stayed up and customers kept coming. To Earl, it wasn't hate, it was tradition. Meanwhile, Muhammad Ali was flying higher than ever. He had refused the Vietnam draft, lost his title, spent years in exile, then came back like a lion, winning back the heavyweight crown and becoming more than a fighter. He was a voice, loud, unapologetic, funny, and fierce, while black kids across America looked up to him like a god. But Ali never forgot where he came from in Louisville, the restaurants that turned him away, the buses, the signs, and the quiet daily humiliations that tried to shrink a man's soul. That night, after a long day of appearances in Atlanta, his small group was exhausted and hungry, and they just wanted food. Then they saw the sign. His friends begged him, saying, "Champ, we can find somewhere else. There's too much risk. You don't need this fight." Ali looked at them with eyes burning with something deeper than anger and said, "I fought for my name in the ring. I fought for my beliefs when they took my title. If I can't fight this right here, then what was any of it for?" He stepped forward. The air inside the diner smelled of grease, coffee, and fear. A few older white men at the counter shifted uncomfortably. One muttered under his breath, while a younger guy looked ready for trouble. Earl wiped his hands on his apron slowly, like he was sizing up an animal that wandered into his yard, and said, "You deaf boy? I said we don't serve." Ali cut him off with a steady and clear voice, saying, "I heard you. I'm standing right here." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The whole room was watching, waiting for the explosion. What would a man who once said, "I am the greatest," do when someone tried to make him feel small? The stakes were higher than anyone in that diner could imagine. Earl leaned forward, gripping the counter, and said, "Listen, this is my place. My rules. You and your friends can turn around and keep driving. Ain't nothing for you here." Ali took one slow step closer as the tension crackled like electricity. "You know who I am?" Ali asked. A couple people whispered while someone recognized him. Earl narrowed his eyes and replied, "Yeah, I know." The boxer. The one always running his mouth. Don't change a thing. One of Ali's friends, still by the door, whispered urgently, "Champ, let's go. This ain't worth it." But Ali stayed planted. He looked around the room at the uncomfortable faces, the half-eaten plates, the fear mixed with curiosity. Then he spoke words that cut deeper than any jab. "You got a sign in your window that says I'm not welcome. But I fought for this country. I put my life on the line in ways you never will. And you still look at me like I'm less than a man?" Silence fell. A woman at a booth looked down at her coffee, ashamed. Earl's face reddened as he said, "This is how it's always been. Always will be. Now get out before I call the sheriff." Ali smiled, not a happy smile but a dangerous one, and replied, "Call him. Tell him the greatest is here and he's hungry for more than food." Gasps filled the room. Someone chuckled nervously. The young hothead at the counter stood up and said, "You think you're tough? This ain't no ring." Ali turned to him slowly and replied, "Tough? Son, I've been hit by men who'd make you cry for your mama. This ain't about tough. This is about right." He turned back to Earl and asked, "You scared of me sitting at your counter? Or scared of what it means if you let me?" Earl's hands were shaking now, not from fear of a fight but from something deeper. The room felt smaller. Every second stretched. Would someone throw the first punch? Would Ali finally snap? Or was he playing a game no one in that diner understood yet? Then something shifted. Ali's voice softened, not weaker but stronger. "I could tear this place apart with my hands. But I won't. Because hate never needed fists to win. It just needed good men to stay quiet." He looked Earl straight in the soul and continued, "You think that sign protects you? There's a chain around your own neck. You built a wall to keep me out, but it's keeping you trapped too." Earl opened his mouth but nothing came out. For the first time in decades, the man had no answer. Ali continued, calm and powerful, saying, "I've been hated by bigger men than you. Governments, champions, crowds. But I never let it make me hate back. Because when you hate, they win. When you love anyway, you become unstoppable." Tears welled in the eyes of an older black man who had quietly entered earlier and had been watching from the corner. One of the white customers whispered, "He's right." Earl looked around at his customers, at his world crumbling under the weight of one man's words. "What do you want from me?" Earl finally asked, with his voice breaking. Ali stepped closer with no threat, just truth, and said, "I want you to look at me. Really look. And tell me if I'm not a man standing in front of you." The diner was dead quiet. Earl's eyes met Ali's. Seconds passed like hours. Then something cracked. Earl's shoulders dropped as the hard mask he had worn for years started slipping. He walked over to the window slowly, like every step hurt. His hand reached for the sign and he hesitated. Ali didn't push. He just waited. Earl ripped the sign down as the paper tore with a sound that echoed through the room. He turned around with eyes wet and said, I don't know what to say." Ali nodded gently and replied, "You just said it." Earl looked at his remaining customers and continued with his voice cracking fully, "I've been wrong. For a long time. This man, he didn't have to come in here. He could have kept driving. But he stopped." He turned to Ali and said, "Thank you." The two men, one who had carried hate for decades and one who refused to carry it, shook hands, not as enemies but as men. The waitress started crying. Someone clapped. Then more joined in. The transformation wasn't loud. It was quiet, painful, and real. Earl offered them food on the house. Ali sat at the counter. For the first time in that diner's history, everyone ate together. Years later, Earl Miller tore down more than just that sign. He changed how he raised his grandchildren, spoke differently to his neighbors, and told the story of the night the greatest walked in and instead of fighting taught him how to be free. Muhammad Ali didn't just win that night. He showed the world that real strength isn't always in the punch. Sometimes it's in the courage to walk in when everyone tells you to walk away. To speak truth with love instead of anger. To see the humanity in the person who denies yours. That one night in Georgia rippled outward. Stories spread. Hearts changed. And the world became just a little bit better because one man refused to let hate have the final word. Thanks for watching until the very end. Stories like this remind us that greatness isn't just about titles or belts. It's about character when no one's watching and when everyone is. If this moved you, if it made you think about your own life and your own courage, do two things for me. hit that like button. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. And subscribe for more powerful true stories that remind us what humanity can be. There's another powerful story waiting for you right on your screen. Go watch it now, because the world still needs more people like Muhammad Ali. People who walk toward the hard things and make them better. I'll see you in the next one.